الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, our dear brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us tonight. I welcome with me tonight our dear brother Dr. Hassan Lamy. First and foremost, I would like to send my condolences to the family of Sister Aya Hashim, نحسبها شهيدة, who was mercilessly murdered recently, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise her ranks in the blessed nights of Ramadan amongst the prophets, the messengers, the shuhada, and all the righteous people. And I would like to as a side note, emphasize on an important point, especially in times of heated emotions and reactions to any difficult situation we may experience as a community, by saying that الظلم والطغيان يولدان من حب الإنسان للسيطرة والسلطان. Oppression and transgression are born from the desire of the human being for domination and control. وَلَا عَلَاقَةَ لَهُمَا بِالْمَذَاهِبِ وَالْأَدْيَانِ. And there is no inherent relationship between oppression and religions, let alone denominations and schools of thought. Without further ado, tonight's roadmap will be as follows. Brother Hassan Lamy will introduce Surah Al-Hujurat, ayah number 12, on the topic of thinking traps as well as the golden rule. And before Brother Lamy enlightens us with his thoughts on these two topics, I would like to introduce to you the notion of rumors at the speed of light from Surah Al-Hujurat, ayah number 6. Let us listen to the first recitation of the Quran from tonight's session by Sheikh Mohammed al-Dihnawi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, our dear brothers and sisters, welcome back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu an tusibu qawman bijahalatin fatusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin. O you who believe, those in a state of security and peace, if a troublemaker brings you news, check it first in case you wrong others unwittingly and later regret what you have done. Sadaqallahu al-Ali al-Azim. This translation is formulated by Dr. Abdul Halim for your reference. Nevertheless, the topic of rumors is one of the most pressing areas of reflection and inquiry in today's age of social media. Surah Al-Hujurat is such an important chapter in the Quran that we can consider it the moral constitution of the Quran.
The moral chapter.
And the moral chapter. And I believe we live in times where we are in need of not the masterminds but the master hearts. Reflecting back on our Islamic civilization, I recall Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, the master heart of the spiritual and ethical Islamic Renaissance. Imam Zayn al-Abidin once said, every morning the tongue of the human being stands on all the bodily organs and asks them, how are you? They reply, we are well insofar as you leave us alone. My dear brothers and sisters, rumors begin with a word but cause a tragedy. And I believe this topic in particular needs to be revisited and reflected on time and again, because I believe we have not yet exhausted the moral implications of this topic on the social fabric of our living in the age of social media. So rumors are as old as human history, but what makes them significant in today's society is the speed and scope of the internet. And there are two facts about rumors that encourage us to seriously reflect on their implications and on the complexity of the human nature when it comes to understanding them. First, they impose real damage. And second, they resist correction. Let's look at the first particular factor or fact. Before I do so, I would like to remind you, since we were kids, we all came across Chinese whispers. And after we notice how the original statement that passes from one person to another eventually loses the consistency and the resemblance with the original statement, we have a laugh. Because it's a game, it's a play. This very same game actually takes place every day in the life of adults, most of the time without us recognizing it, but it causes real damage. And the damage it causes is known as symbolic violence. And they say symbolic violence, for example character assassination, is more dangerous than physical violence. Because when you kill someone and you take away their life, you only kill them once. But if you character assassinate someone, you kill them 1,000 times every day. Because this individual will not be suffering alone. His family will be suffering with him. His friends will be suffering. And his community will be suffering. My dear brothers and sisters, the second fact about rumors is that they resist correction. Meaning that even when we come to see that these false rumors had no reasonable ground, we struggle to face the very challenge of questioning our adoption of these rumors in the first place. And so all of us are potential victims of false and dangerous rumors in today's world. Even those who don't use social media are potential victims. That is why recently New York City has made a crime to circulate false rumors about the financial status of banks, which goes to show you that rumors not only endanger individuals and groups but also institutions and societies. I'll share with you 3 important processes that are often revisited when we try to understand why human beings accept and engage with false rumors. Number 1, this is called social cascades, meaning that we lack information of our own. As human beings, we are limited. Who actually knows that Shakespeare actually lived? Based on first-hand experience and data. Who actually knows that whatever you hear from your friend whether it's knowledge, information, wisdom, is actually true and was reported and narrated in its current and original formula or formulation. So our limited and lack of information provides us with the incentive to accept the views of others. Number 2, it's called group polarization. So when like-minded people get together, they often end up thinking a more extreme version of what they thought before they started to talk to one another about that topic or that person. And perhaps this is why the Quran invites us to retreat from society every now and then. إنما أعظكم بواحدة أن تقوموا لله مثنى أو فرادى ثم تتفكر. Retreat from the mass mind, retreat from the social conformity in your society, and try to maintain being with one individual, maximum 2, because once you include a third person, that's when you go back to the social conformity of your society, and the mass mind will start playing out again. So this is group polarization. And number 3, I spoke about confirmation bias last night. So factor number 3, which I'll introduce now, is something different, and it's called biased assimilation. So when we receive this information, we assimilate the information in a biased manner that reinforces our emotional attachments to the beliefs that we have about another person or about another institution and whatnot. So believing in a rumor actually depends on your prior convictions, on your prior emotions, and this in itself determines how you will interact with the rumor after hearing it. So for example, if you have a Toyota hybrid and you come across a notification that there is an issue in the design of the engine, and so in 2 months' time, whoever owns a Toyota hybrid may experience a breakdown. As a person who's emotionally attached to this brand, to this type, you will say, I don't believe it, because of his prior emotions and prior convictions. And same happens if someone comes to you and says, you know, your very close friend did so and so. Obviously you're not going to believe it. You're going to say, I don't believe it. That's why the Quran says, جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. So even a troublemaker or a wicked person may carry half the truth in what he is carrying or sharing. So the Quran is not saying just because he is a fasiq that whatever he's saying is totally false. But you need to apply tabayyun, that verification.
There is that fa, which is the time distance and the time elapsed between you receiving and investigating the matter.
Hassan. So I'll pause here, and inshallah in the second part we will continue exploring the notion of rumors at the speed of light. Let us now listen to the second recitation of the Quran for tonight by Sheikh Mohammed al-Dihnawi.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Thank you again for following us for another night. Surah Al-Hujurat, as Akh Mohammed said, is the moral chapter of Quran. If this Ramadan we have not done anything about Quran, let us reflect, read and understand, and inshallah extract the gems to follow, implement and practice in the coming days and months of our life. Surah Al-Hujurat is the moral chapter of Quran. And it's a very short chapter. Tonight I want to cover verse number 12. Otherwise I would have provided the scaffolding of this chapter. But in a nutshell, this chapter carries 20 commandments. 10 in a negating way, for example, telling you what not to do, and 10 in a positive manner, 10 things to do. So try to go through this chapter, try to understand it and comprehend it. Muhammad is covering one aspect of it. I'm going to cover verse number 12. So let's start. If you have Quran, verse number 12, which I think verse number 12 and 13 form the foundation of the entire chapter, because in the other verses it's giving you a moral maxim, it's giving you a moral lesson to apply. These two verses doesn't give you a maxim or lesson, it gives you a moral foundation upon which these maxims have been built. For example, we say lying is bad. This is a moral maxim, but what's the foundation of this badness or this goodness? So let's go to verse number 12. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. And in this chapter, most of the addressees are the mu'mineen. Some of the addressees are the general public, the human being, or those who have entered the city of peacefulness and tranquility. Ijtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann. Avoid and try to refrain from suspicion, from conjectures, from just a pure thought which is baseless. Here, inna ba'da dhanni if, because some of these suspicions and conjectures and baseless thoughts may lead to sins. And if you remember, we said if is antonym to bir. Bir was a goodness which causes open-mindedness. Ithm is a badness which causes closed-mindedness. So as if dhan, suspicion, conjecture, which I'm going to explain further, causes you to become closed-minded, narrow-minded. You see the world through a tunnel vision. You see the world from a filter which is colored by one basically color, by one saturation, and does not allow you to see other colors that exist in the world. So before I go further, I want to focus on this part. So here Quran is focusing not only on the moral practices of your behavior, of your speech. Behavior and speech called conduct together. It's not only concerned about that level of morality, it's also concerned of the morality of the heart and the mind. Because suspicion, baseless thought, thinking which is of without any value or evidence, conjecture, is the realm of mind and heart. No one knows about it. So the previous verses talk about moral practices which everyone accepts, and many nations and many modern states try to apply it. But here morality takes another corner, and that is to say morality should go even at the level of heart and mind, whereby we need to fix that level of existence. So that's at the level of heart and mind you want to apply morality, which is a bit different to the common discourse, whereby morality is more in the conduct, talking and behavior practices. So here suspicion can be divided in two types, although the verse mainly talks about suspicion in the manner which is concerning the other. But we can say suspicion, conjecture, baseless thought is about the person. So you have a negative thought or suspicion about the self or about the other, the society. So now I want to go back to the modern sciences and psychological sciences, in which we want to explore what is this dhann. If you have done philosophy, you know dhann in philosophy it's a good thing. Here I'm not talking about dhann from a philosophical thought. If you survey the word dhann in Quran, probably 90% of the time it's been used in this negative sense, which we may call the urfi sense, the public usage of the word, which means suspicion and baseless thought which has no evidence. Here I'm not talking about dhann in the logical sense, in the philosophical world, which carries a positive meaning.
Which is methodological.
So that's a different thing. Because we don't have time, I will leave it to another session to explain it. But that logical meaning of dhann has been used a few times in Quran as well. But the main usage is this negative sense. I would call dhann in this sense, which is mentioned in this verse, and I think it forms one of the foundations of morality at the level of heart and mind, thinking trap. So what is a thinking trap according to psychological sciences? A thinking trap is a mistake in our interpretation of a situation. Thinking traps get in the way of our responding well to events in our lives. So in a nutshell, all thinking traps are a type of assumption. Dhann is an assumption. Well, what type of assumption? Making our mind up about something before looking at the facts, before looking at the evidences of the situation. And that is the meaning of dhann in this verse. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ijtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann, meaning try to avoid these thinking traps, which you are interpreting the situation at hand, you are interpreting the others who are basically having a relationship with you without examining the evidence and the facts at hand. So if dhann, now we can translate as thinking trap. Let's translate it again. All those who have entered the city of tranquility and peacefulness, avoid any type of or many types of thinking traps, because some of these thinking traps or many of these thinking traps will cause you to commit sins in a way that you become narrow-minded. So now, before I go further, I'll just check time. I have another 5 minutes to cover what I have in the first part. I want to give you some of 9 types of thinking traps that on a daily basis we are facing. So you can see this dhann, which, as again I want to emphasize, forms the moral foundation. Why? Because a thinking trap, as Mohammed said, you are dealing with the external world not based on the facts. You're dealing with the world based on what you have formulated in your thought, which has nothing to do with the world. The other is treating you, but you're not taking the treatment based on what is in the real world. You're looking at what is the thinking trap. You're trapped in your thoughts. So if you understand them, we can avoid them, minimize them, then we may have a better relationship with the other. Number 1, or the first 3 are the top 3 that are commonly practiced. The first thinking trap is known as the always never. I always fail. He always treats me like that. She never believes me. This thinking trap. Logically, if I bring one example, even if it's in a million, it breaks the fact that it's always or never. Because always means 100% of the time. That's number one. The second trap, me. It's always me who is in trouble. It's always me who is the unlucky one. It's always me who gets the finger pointed at me. Okay, this is the second trap. Third, them. It's always them that cause that. Especially if you're part of a minority and you're in the victim psychology, it's always them. It's never you. Obviously, you can mix these three. It's always them blaming me. As a result, that's why I'm always the loser. It's always them leaving me out. That's why I never have good friends. So these are the top three thinking traps. And you can reflect on your thought, on your life, to see how many times on a daily basis you have used this. The fourth one is called tunnel vision, where you see things in a narrow way, as if there is only one explanation for every situation, without broadening our horizon. Maybe there are other reasons. He treated me like that, she treated me like that. That's what it means. They wanted to destroy me. The fifth one, character assassination, whereby you are making a large personal judgment on limited information. You know a bit of information about someone, about a situation, but you make a massive judgment, and that is character assassination, in which, as you said, you don't die once, you die unlimited times on a daily basis. And it is one of the worst types of assassination. And torture, exactly. So this character assassination, and that's why dhann is a type of assassination. Number 6, magnification. You make a mountain out of a molehill. The situation itself is small, but you make it a massive situation. There are a few more types of mind traps, but because I have 2 minutes, I want to move to the next part. So I mentioned 6 mind traps or thinking traps: always, never, me, them, tunnel vision, character assassination, magnification. Also, you have the opposite, minification. You try to minify all the situations. The issue of mind reading, as if you can read the minds of others. I know what he meant, I know what she meant. And the last one is perfectionism, because you want everything to be perfect. So these are the 9 common mind traps. Try to reflect what they mean. But I want to get to the next point before I finish. When you have this thinking trap, what does it do? So you have a thought, you have a foundation to your thought. This generates emotions independent of the reality in the outside world. Based on this relationship, the famous Stoic philosopher Epictetus, he said that this relation between belief and emotions, as psychologists use that, and they developed a model called ABC: adversity, the belief, the consequences. So what's adversity? On a daily basis, we're facing many difficulties, many hardships, different types of relationship treatments. Now I face that. Someone says something. Now, the belief system comes into the play to interpret the situation, the dhann. Now, if you are afflicted with one of the or some of these mind traps or thinking traps, you're going to interpret that situation independent of the reality that you are living. So as a result, let's say if you are the always, me, them, minification, magnification, mind reading, that's what he meant, that's what she meant, so on and so forth. As a result, you produce the C, the consequences, which is of 2 types. Number 1 is the feelings, the emotions, and number 2 is the action. And that's where it becomes ithm. Ithm, you become narrow-minded in your emotions and in your actions. So I would like to leave the audience with this. A, B, C. A, the adversity that you face. B, what type of mind trap are you afflicted with that you are interpreting the situation? and what it produces in terms of the sea consequences, in terms of the emotions, feelings, and in terms of the action. As a result, if we can understand that, we can understand this moral foundation of اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن, suspicion, conjecture, what we call the mind traps. And in the second part, I will explain the rest of it to you, Akh Mohammed, if you have any points to add.
Thank you, Brother Hassan Lamy. I think you covered a very significant scope of this topic, and I look forward to hearing more from you in our second part. Let us go for a 5-minute break, and inshallah we'll resume soon.
Saadi, famoso poeta persiano, 800 anni fa scriveva: gli esseri umani sono nati dalla stessa perla, eterna poesia per l'umanità. Pejman Tadayon ne ha composto una canzone e in questo momento di difficoltà per la cultura e per lo spettacolo ha invitato, in collaborazione col Teatro Biondo di Palermo, musicisti di diversi paesi del mondo a cantarlo e a suonarlo. Alireza Gorbani, famoso interprete iraniano, lo ha cantato nella lingua originale, ovvero il Farsi, mentre Bungaro e Barbara Eramo hanno eseguito la versione in italiano. Saadi, Shirazi.
بنی آدم اعضای یک پیکرند که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند. چو عضوی به درد آورد روزگار، دگر عضوها را نماند قرار. تو که از محنت دیگران بی‌غمی، نشاید که نامت نهند آدمی.
Gli esseri umani sono parte di un unico corpo, provengono dalla stessa perla. Quando una delle parti soffre di qualche male, anche le altre provano dolore. Non puoi considerarti parte dell'umanità se non hai compassione di quel dolore.
تو که از محنت بنی آدم اعضای یک پیکرند یک پیکرند که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند چو عضوی به درد آورد به درد آورد روزگار دگر عضوها را نماند قرار تو که از محنت دیگران بی‌غمی نشاید که نامت نهند آدمی.
Gli esseri umani sono parte di un unico corpo, provengono dalla stessa perla. Quando una delle parti soffre di qualche male, anche le altre provano dolore. Non puoi considerarti parte dell'umanità se non hai compassione di quel dolore.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, dear brothers and sisters. Let us re-listen to the recitation of Surah Al-Hujurat, ayah number 6 by Sheikh Mohammed al-Dihnawi.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. So in a nutshell, the definition of rumors, and let's put aside the semantic debate around definitions, is any claim of fact that relates to a particular group of people, individuals or institutions, the credibility of which is not based on the shown evidence, but rather on the wide circulation and the acceptance of a group of people. So that's the definition of rumors in a nutshell. And when social scientists study the phenomenon of rumors, which circulates at the speed of light, especially in the age of social media, they actually say that, you know, humans do so with all their rational faculties. It's not like people are irrational when they spread rumors. So as you can see, the matter of rumors tends to make us more humble, because the human nature is complex. And when I say complex, I don't mean that we are unable to understand it, but I mean that in order to understand it, we cannot be reductionist. We need to consult sociology, psychology, anthropology, philosophy,
religious studies,
and this has been our approach since the beginning of the month of Ramadan.
The interdisciplinary approach.
Absolutely, and the holistic approach to human understanding.
As we defined it in the first time, al-istintaq, the methodology of istintaq.
Absolutely, to verbalize the Quran, to enable the Quran to speak to the issues and questions of our time by bringing to the Quran these questions and challenges. So, with the example of confirmation bias, which I mentioned last night, as of 2018, some studies have shown that 68% of Americans get at least some of their news via social media. And social media ensures that the items they consume represent their own views, their own preferences.
The search engines.
Search engines, absolutely. But the interesting thing about these studies is not the fact that we consume, but it's something more subtle, and that is 57% of Americans say that the news they see on social media is largely inaccurate. So they acknowledge that it's inaccurate, but they continue to use it as a news source. Why? And that's the very insightful point to reflect on. Why? Because of its convenience.
It's like a mind trap.
Hassan.
Irrespective of what's in the external world, it's your mind trap giving you your interpretation.
Absolutely. It's convenient. It's accessible. It's succinct. It's reductionist. And all you need to do, because you've got other things to explore, especially when you're scrolling on Facebook, all you need to do is just consume it. And that's why some philosophers have said that the truth finds it difficult to catch up with lies. Unfortunately, because lies are so embedded in our human nature, which becomes almost like a culture that we reproduce on a daily basis.
And we appear to be more knowledgeable and up to date, and we know what's happening around us. And maybe the same number reflects, if not higher, our religious literacy as well. We get most of our religious literacy from social media nowadays.
Exactly. And so this is an invite to each and every one of us to really consider these thinking traps, as Brother Hassan Lamy beautifully termed them. So what is the driving force behind all these factors? There is an important driving force, and that is our attention as human beings is selective by nature. And so the more likely we are to accept particular rumors, particular beliefs, when they arouse our fear. Why? Because the reptilian brain, as you know, is responsible for the immediate response to our environment, whether it's flight, fight or freeze. through evolution. That's how our brain evolved, and that's how our nature was shaped. So because of this arousal of fear, we tend to pay little attention to whether this type of news or this type of rumors is based on evidence or not. And again, it's very important here that we look into the psychology of human nature and learn techniques and strategies that help us maintain that distance between, our thinking, our emotions, and the environment. My dear brothers and sisters, why did the Quran use the word fasiq? In the Quran, al-fusuq or al-fisq is mentioned in around 54 verses. And even, I believe, in the same surah, correct me if I'm wrong, Brother Hassan, وَبِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقِ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ, that it's such a tragedy, it's such a loss for a believer to take on the title of a fasiq after believing, meaning after internalizing the moral principles of faith, to fall into this trap of false rumors and the circulation of false news about others, the world and institutions. Now, what is fusuq? Obviously, fusuq, simply put, is to basically exit or to get out of a particular circle or realm or domain. But let me provide you with more insight into the etymology of فسوق. أصل الفسوق هو خروج الرطبة عن قشرتها. So the origin of فسوق is when the unripe dates become ripened. When they become ripened, so when dates are unripe, we call them balah, al-balaha, which is dates when they are unripe. So when they ripen, that's when the actual dates come out of the shell.
The skin of the
skin of the fruit. So it becomes described as fusuq, khuruj. And so this process is very telling. Why? Because it describes the state of the dates after falling from the dates tree on the ground. What happens is it gets covered with the soil, and the flies
while their skin is ripped apart, and now your inside is exposed to external world
Hassan,
without any protection.
Hassan, so you almost become naked without any protection, without any immunity, and so all the filthy flies will circulate around you. Isn't this the state of the fasiq who spreads false rumors and loses that moral compass? We say rumors start with the ibara. We say in Arabic, man abbar faqad ghayyar. When you express anything, any statement, any word, you have changed. You have caused a change, whether good or bad. Now, ta'bir can be a hebra or it can be a abra. It can be a lesson, a wisdom that you share with other people and you benefit society, or it can cause a abra. It can cause tears. And so I believe this is something we should reflect on, especially in our day and age where rumors have become our bread and butter, especially when we consume all these false news online, or perhaps before even labeling them as false, incomplete and inaccurate. There are 4 types of propagators or doers of rumors. Number 1, narrowly self-interested people. These people promote their own interests by harming a particular group or person. They want to win a competition. They want to create a status. So they're not inherently, hateful, but rather they have an instrumental end and they spread rumors in order to achieve that end. Number two, generally self-interested. And those people, they attract readers and eyeballs. So they spread rumors simply because they want followers, or they want to create a story out of their own existence and activity. Number three, altruistic propagators, concerned with some kind of a cause. So these people, they believe that we're promoting a public good. If someone in a community commits a dangerous act or adopts a dangerous belief, then these people take on the altruistic circulation of rumors in order to protect that society. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword again. That's why the Quran says, فَتَبَيَّنُوا. Even if you're altruistic and you're concerned about your society, you can't say, that there is no need to exercise distance, scrutiny and examination. And finally, malicious. So malicious people usually disclose embarrassing details about a particular person, organization or group because they inherently have hate. So these are the necrophilic type that we spoke about. Let me finish off, my dear brothers and sisters, by saying, what is the remedy for this culture of false rumors? I'll provide you with two examples from our Islamic civilization, and I won't delve into the discussion around the civic measures because this is a very long topic. Just two moral lessons. Number one from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and two from Mawlana Jalaluddin al-Rumi. Imam Ali alayhi salam has a dua that really teaches us not only how to prevent rumors, but how to counter rumors with ihsan. Again, going back to last night's lesson. He says, Allahumma ighfirli ma la ya'lamun. Oh Allah, forgive me for the things that they do not know, for my faults that those who are accusing me have no knowledge of. وَلَا تُؤَاخِذْنِي بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. And do not judge me by what they say about me. وَاغْفِرْ لِي مَا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Again, forgive me for what they don't know. Then he says, وَلَا تُؤَاخِذْنِي بِمَا يَقُولُونَ وَاجْعَلْ لِي خَيْرًا مِمَّا يَظُنُّونَ. And make me better than what they suspect, speculate and assume about me. Mawlana Jalaluddin al-Rumi was once approached by a man who wanted to cause a disconnect between Jalaluddin al-Rumi and his soulmate Shams al-Tabrizi. So he said to him, your so-called master drinks alcohol. Jalaluddin al-Rumi said to him, والله لو فاحت منه رائحة الخمر من ثيابه لقلت بأنها سكبت عليه. Even if I would smell alcohol on his clothes, I would say it was poured on him. والله لو رأيته واقفا على جبل يقول أنا ربكم الأعلى لقلت بأنه يتلو الآية. Even if he was to stand on a mountain and say, I am your Almighty Lord, I would say he is reciting the ayah. اذهب عني إني أعرف شمسا بقلبي ولا أعرفه بعيني. Go away, I know Shams by my heart and not by my eyes. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Let us now listen to the final recitation of the Quran by Sheikh Mohammed al-Dehnawi for tonight.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم.
Assalamu alaikum again, dear brothers and sisters. Thank you, Mohammed, for these insightful comments, spiritual and uplifting. So going back to the verse number 12 of Surah Al-Hujurat, in the first part we covered the first moral foundation known as a dhann, thinking traps, try to diagnose them and try to avoid them. And as we said, these thinking traps can be projected in two ways. One, internally towards yourself, where you have this self-blaming and self-loathing nature, that I am a loser, I don't have any friends, I'm alone, I'm always this, I never make it. Or it can be projected to the others, where you try to speculate, make suspicion, baseless thoughts without examining the current evidence. Here I will provide one solution, which Muhammad alluded to it before moving to the next part of the verse, which I titled the golden rule. And that's what Prophet and the other great Imams have recommended. احمل أخاك على 70 محمل من الخير. That you try to bring up excuses and justifications, even if you have to make 70 excuses and justifications, like just Rumi did for his master Shams al-Tabrizi. And this requires imagination, which I come back to it in the second point that I will mention now. So I will move from the part وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا وَلَا يَغْتِبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. This is just some examples about dhann. So dhann is this moral foundation. Some of the examples is when you want to basically look into people's life. This being busybody, being nosy, and especially in current age where we have access to information and technology has become more accessible, unfortunately. And yaghtib is basically from ghaib, that you talk behind someone, ghaib, in their absence. So some of the examples of dhann. And then Quran gives an example, gives basically a metaphor of this situation, which is probably the only time Quran mentions the golden rule. The golden rule in the narrations is fully emphasized and highlighted. In Quran, this is the only time. And Quran says, أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدَكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. That would you like one of you, would you love one of you to eat the meat, the flesh of your brother? And the previous verses, mu'minin are brothers. To eat the flesh of your brother while he's dead, and you know how much you dislike and detest and hate this statement. As if, before explaining the golden rule, as if Quran is saying that these people who have this suspicion, who always backbite, talk about others, they want to look into people's life and try to spread rumors, they are deficient. But how do they become out of this deficiency? By capitalizing on other people's resources in an immoral manner. How immoral? Eating the flesh and making this character assassination, maitan. So you character assassinate and then you eat this flesh. Look at the power of the imagery in this parable, in this example. But one of the things that you can derive from this example is the golden rule. That is saying that you don't like to eat the dead flesh, then how would you like it for others if you don't like it for yourself? The golden rule, many books have been written in searching this rule in all the cultures, in ancient cultures, in many religions, Western, Eastern religions, Abrahamic religions, and it is stated and found in all the religions, in all the thoughts, without any disputation. The golden rule is mentioned in three ways. tonight I don't want to discuss it from the philosophy of ethics, and I don't want to discuss it from the anthropological perspective. Rather, I want to take it to a spiritual way. Because we don't have much time, I won't mention the 3 ways. I would mention the 2 major ways, the positive and the negative. The positive is treat others as you would like others to treat you. The negative way, don't treat others in a way that you would not like to be treated. The philosophers say that the negating statement is more inclusive and encompassing from a philosophical perspective. It has more power for defense. The positive statement, it has loopholes that can be basically rejected. But the negating statement, which is what Quran has used as well, has more power to defend and is more applicable. But again, this is the philosophy of ethics. We can delay to another session. So don't treat others in a way that you would not like to be treated. That's the golden rule in a nutshell. But let's go to our Islamic tradition and heritage. When I surveyed, I found no one talking about this in Islamic literature more than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. The amount of narrations from him on this matter, I think more than 20 times in Nahj al-Balagha, he mentions this notion of golden rule. The famous one is letter number 31 to his son, Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam. اجعل نفسك ميزانا فيما بينك وبين الناس فأحب لغيرك ما تحب لنفسك وأكره له ما تكره لنفسك. I will give the translation just to move on. Oh my child, make yourself the measure for dealing between you and others. Thus you should desire for others what you desire for yourself, and hate for others what you hate for yourself. Do not oppress as you do not like to be oppressed. Do good to others as you would like good to be done to you. Regard bad for yourself whatever you regard bad for others. Accept that treatment from others which you would not like others to accept from you. Don't say to others what you don't like to be said to you. And he continues on. You can refer to Nahj al-Balagha, letter number 31. But you know what is the requirement for golden rule? There is one foundation. We don't want to talk about the foundation. As I said, this is philosophy of ethics. But I want to talk about the requirement. There is one single requirement for golden rule to be applicable. Not the foundation. Foundation is something different. And that requirement is imagination. To imagine yourself in somebody else's shoes. If you cannot exercise imagination, it is impossible to apply golden rule. And I think that is the major reason we are failing not to apply this golden rule in our life. Now I want to mention in the next verse, which is verse number 13, it tells us another way to maximize this imagination. لِتَعَارَفُوا. Verse number 13 is one of the most famous verses in Quran, where you're into tribes and nations in order to know each other, and the caliber for who is best is the moral caliber, whoever has more self-control. Anyways, to exercise imagination, you need to know the other. And you know how you know the other? One of the ways to read the world literature. How much have you read the stories of other nations? How much have you read about the other? And لِتَعَارَفُ means to know the other from their tongue, not to know the other from what you think is the other. I remember in the earlier years of research in philosophy, my friends, or many of them, used to read Marxism, the critique of Marxism, without going to Marx and reading what he's saying. This is the deficiency. This is not golden rule. Golden rule, exercise imagination. Read the world literature as one of the ways.
And as we said in previous nights, permit me, Hassan, to say that at-taslim lillah is norms of truth.
Ahsant.
So living in a truthful way and not claiming to possess the truth, So not looking at the truth as a property, but rather as a way of living.
Exactly. And as something incomplete in mission, as you said, write a sentence but don't put the dot at the end. Exactly. So as I said, the requirement for golden rule is imagination. Now there are 3 major barriers and hurdles to the golden rule in our life, but I would leave that to tomorrow. We have gone over time. To you, Akh Mohammed, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan Lamy, for your insightful and astute reflections. Inshallah, we can continue tonight. I'll just quickly finish off with a summary of both contributions. The world of truth is the world of trust, and vice versa. So telling a lie will be a disqualification, whether you're an academic, whether you're a religious scholar, whether you're a politician, whether you're an expert, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a businessman. And so a reputation of truth telling becomes the test of human character. Salatun or nawmun ala yaqeen khayrun min salatin fi shak. To sleep in a state of certainty is better than to pray in a state of doubt. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
I spent 1,000 sleepless nights in wait of dreams I could not find. I walked 1,000 empty roads in search of signs to bring me home. With every breath I spoke your name. With every breath I spoke your name. And heard it rolling in the waves. Beneath the veil of ocean blue. I broke illusion from the truth. You said, walk to me and I'll find you. Call me and I'll show you. Hiding light.